Guys, welcome back to Critical Flick. Today I'll be reviewing Prey from Hulu. So Prey is the newest film in the Predator franchise, and I've always been kind of an Alien guy myself, but I do love the Predator films. Obviously the first one is a classic, and I do like some along the way. They've been a little hit or miss, a little up or down, but I think this one may be one of the best installments in the entire franchise. Dan Trachtenberg directs this film, who you may know from 10 Cloverfield Lane, another film that I really did enjoy, and I think he brings a really interesting style to this franchise. You're able to capture some of the things that made the first film really special. That idea of isolation, just being kind of the predator and the prey, no pun intended there. But having these very intense moments in the movie, there's a lot of tension building and there's a lot of action. It doesn't slow down too much in any moments. There's some really cool set pieces. The cinematography and the way they decided to shoot this movie, I think, is one of the things that makes it really unique for the franchise. The movie takes place in the early 1700s, and it follows a group of Native Americans in the Comanche Nation, and they are out in these wide plains in the forest, and the predator lands on their territory, and as you can imagine, they come in contact with him. He decides to be hunting them. They're the mightiest warriors around, and there's some great, very visceral and like tribal moments that are taking place in this movie, and I love how it strips it down to kind of like just the bare bones combat. I think it's one of the things that I really liked about it, and something that sets it apart from the other films, is that you have a predator who is a little more primitive. He still has some of his technology, like, he has his cloaking devices, his heat vision, all the things you would expect, a lot of his same weapons, but he looks so much more like tribal. Like I said, he looks so much more primitive, and he has like a skull face, and everything about him is so more visceral, and I really enjoyed that take on the Predator. And speaking of the Predator itself, Dane DeLegro, who plays the Predator, who's in the costume, he's a former basketball player, and he's big, he's menacing, he's huge, and he plays the role really well, and that kind of mix between an animalistic character but still having those somewhat human features. I also love that it brings in that the Predator is kind of an honorable hunter. He doesn't want to just kill anything. He's not just a killing machine. He's there to take trophies. He's there to kind of have a challenge. He only wants to fight against those other predators in the ecosystem. And you see that a lot. It really sets it up with those moments where there's one in particular where you have like a coyote who's chasing down a rabbit, and you're seeing him kind of watch that take place and deciding what he's going to do. Amber Midthunder plays the main character Naru in the film, and she is a young Comanche warrior who wants to prove her worth. She wants to prove that she can go out there with the rest of the men and really fight for her tribe and be a strong, resourceful warrior. And I really love that about the character, that she kind of makes up for maybe any physical shortcomings that she may have by being very, resourceful. She's using the tools at her disposal, the different weapons, the very unique weapon she uses. She has like a hatchet that's tied onto a rope, and she's able to use that in different facets. She's this young warrior who isn't being taken seriously by her family, kind of people putting her up against her brother, against the other men. They don't see her as like kind of like anyone who could lead the tribe or actually do anything out there on the battlefield, but she's able to build her characters throughout the story, and I really liked her progression from the beginning of the movie to the end, her coming up on her own, being able to fight up against the elements, prove herself, prove who she is as a warrior, and that plays along with the Predator and his idea of seeing someone as whether they are someone worthy of fighting him or someone he's going to ignore. And I think that storyline, that dynamic, is really well done in this film. And I also like the movie has this female empowerment element to it, that it doesn't feel cheesy, it doesn't feel forced, it doesn't feel like a studio is just trying to tick a box by having this character. It feels earned, it feels genuine, and I really love the character by the end of the story. He gives a great performance to someone who is really terrified but wanting to stand up for them, trying to stand up for her tribe, stand up for herself. She also has some moments where she has a dog that's traveling along with her. It's her companion. She creates some emotional moments where she's building this bond with this creature and being able to fight back against this kind of ominous foe. And the movie actually, while it is pretty simple on its face, and it is kind of, an idea of them fighting against this predator, it's tracking them down, a big game of cat and mouse, it has something to say. It has some themes in it that I wasn't expecting from a movie like this. There's some moments in the movie where you're seeing, not to give too many spoilers away, but you're seeing some buffalo. They're out in a field. You're seeing their skin. They're just ripped off. You're assuming that the predator did it because it's something he would do. He takes trophies, whether it's the hide or the skull or anything like that. Then you find along the line that it's, American settlers that are coming, westward expansion, and they're wiping out all the buffalo. And it gives you that idea of maybe like man is the ultimate beast. Man is the monster that's lurking out there, and the kind of that expansion and taking away the natural environment. So you have that contrast. You have the predator being the villain, but then at the end of the day, it's kind of this idea of expansion and taking away the natural things of the world that's the villain in its own right. So I love that juxtaposition between those two themes. As far as the visual effects, I think they did a really good job. There's obviously some really good practical effects. Everyone always loves the Predator costume. It's iconic the way the Predator looks when his mask is being taken off. It's just something that everybody loves. I mean, here I have my Predator skull. It's just like, there's not more iconic things in sci-fi horror than the Predator. So I think they do a really good job of that in this film. But then they also do a pretty solid job of the computer generated effects. A lot of it takes place at night. There's actually a really cool fight scene, a really cool combat scene that takes place in a burnt out forest where the Native Americans are being used as prey for the settlers to bring in this predator to take them down. And just the moments where it's the smokiness and you see the predators kind of camouflage coming in and out, the red lights from him aiming, and just all the different colors that come together. I think that was one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie. So they do a good job of capturing the natural landscape and making use of the predator's skills and just the overall look of the atmosphere there. One nitpick that I have with it a little bit, and it's something that is just, it's really a purely a nitpick thing on my end, is that it's done in a way where all the characters are speaking mostly just modern English. It isn't even like, a early settler English or, with a Native American accent or anything like that. It's just straight up modern English. They do interject some of the native language, and I like those moments. And I get that not every movie wants to be fully in a different language. I kind of, that turns a lot of people off. A lot of general audiences may not enjoy that. But I kind of would have liked that element to it. But obviously, like I said, that's purely a nitpick thing. I think that some people may knock the movie for just being a little too simple. Like I did say, it does kind of push some themes as far as man being the real beast and all those things. But at the end of the day, I think it accomplishes what it needs to do. It doesn't feel too simplistic to me. It doesn't feel like it tries to get too overly complex with the lore. So I think it'll appeal to all people, whether you're a big Predator fan or you're someone who's new to the franchise. I think you'll find something to enjoy. There's also a few subtle callbacks to the original film and some of the expanded lore from the Predator universe. There's even a mention of a character, not to give too much away, at the very end of the movie, who's from like an expanded part of the universe that if you didn't look it up, you probably would have no idea who this person is and their background. But I thought that was kind of cool. There's also kind of a reminiscent thing of Arnold Schwarzenegger when he's covered in the mud. You get that kind of moment in it. So I did enjoy that there's some callbacks for the fans, but it tries to be its own kind of original thing. So if I were to rate Prey, I would give it an 8.5 out of 10. I think it's a really good movie. Maybe I'm a little bit biased because I love the Alien and Predator franchises. I just love seeing it back on the screen. I kind of am disappointed that you're not getting a big screen release because it looks really good. It's really fun and action-packed, but I'm glad that everybody will get to see it on Hulu. I definitely recommend checking it out. And let me know if you check it out. What do you think about it? Leave the comments down below. Remember to like and subscribe, and see you guys next time.